The old barn creaked in the warm breeze. Dust motes floated through the air, highlighted in the beams of sunlight that streamed in between the cracks of the weathered wooden wall planks. It was peaceful and quiet. While Granddad had warned you that the barn was aged and not in the most well-kept condition, you still loved to hang out in there. It was a place just for you, perfect for games with your friends and sleepovers in the hayloft. You were just contemplating climbing into said loft for a lazy summer nap when you heard a soft rustling. Peering curiously around, you listened closely for the sound again. There, in the far corner, behind a pile of old wood pallets stored there and promptly forgotten by Granddad. Stepping closer, the noise became more pronounced when a small, fuzzy face suddenly peered out from behind the rough wooden boards. "Aw!" you exclaimed, delighted. You crouched down to the floor, holding out your hand. "Here, kitty kitty." The tabby gazed at you through pale green eyes before slowly stepping out from behind the pile of pallets. But as she did, you started to notice something wasn't quite right. Her gait was off, as though she couldn't catch her balance, and she was weaving as she tried to walk. Her eyes were fever bright, the pupils widely dilated, and it looked like there was something wrong with her mouth. Her lips were slightly parted, and as she stumbled closer, you saw a string of drool hanging from the corner of her mouth. You sprang to your feet in alarm, and the cat let out a low growl. That did it. You turned tail and bolted out of the barn, shouting in alarm. "Granddad! There's a rabid cat in the barn!" I'm Christiana.
And I'm Bree.
Settle in and don't get too close to wild animals.
Because you're about to hear something strange.
Welcome to episode 21, Rabies.
I was expecting like a Cujo turn in that for some reason. I was sitting here very afraid. I was like, oh.
No, just a very sad cat. I have a couple disclaimers for the top of this episode. One, we are recording at my house today rather in the pod lab, so you may hear some air conditioning running, or you might hear our two pod dogs because Dalian and Roxy are both with us. So squeaking, jingling, jangling, scratching, it's just the pod dogs.
And the air conditioning turning on and off is the reason we're recording here.
Yes.
And not at my house because it is a frickin' sauna.
It is 1,000 degrees in the pod lab.
It is, and neither of us, while saunas are nice apparently,
Yeah.
we don't want to be recording in one.
No, thank you. Another quick personal disclaimer is that I lost my voice this morning, and it sounds better right now than it has all day, but I found it for a minute, but it might get steadily raspier through the episode. Now, on a more serious note, I want to let everyone know I am not a doctor, and neither is my co-host. That being said, this episode should not be taken as any sort of professional medical advice. If you have any questions regarding rabies, whether for yourself or for your pet, please contact your doctor or veterinarian. Don't talk to us, and don't listen to this podcast for advice. Don't do it. Also have some trigger warnings for this episode. Discussion of scientific experimentation on animals. It's not heavily gone into, but it is there. Death and scary old-time medical procedures.
Oh, yay, another one of those.
Yes.
If you liked the idea of drilling holes in people's heads, just wait. And I'm making jokes because I know I'm going to be sad in this one.
Yeah, this is a wild episode. What do you know about rabies?
All right, what do I know about rabies? I know it's an awful disease.
Correct.
I know all of my animals are vaccinated for it.
That's good.
The later stages are like really, really painful, aren't they? And they're like, it's kind of like a psychosis.
Yes.
At the end.
Yes.
It's
very much.
Not a good time, and it's sad.
Yeah, it's awful. It's not a disease that you want to get yourself. It's not a disease that anyone, human or animal, wants to get.
Do they do well, yeah, if you think you're infected, they do like a series of like 3 or 6 shots, right?
Yes. I go into
shots.
that a little bit later. But yes, there are post-exposure vaccines for people.
Are there pre-exposure vaccines?
Yes, and we'll go into that too.
Are they normally given? I'll let never mind.
So it's okay. So rabies is a viral disease that, if contracted and not treated, is fatal. Not if, it is. All mammals can both contract and transmit rabies, but birds and reptiles are not infected.
Can they carry it? jumping ahead of you. I'm sorry.
No, Bridgewater mentioned within the first 10 minutes of our podcast.
Woo!
There should be precautions taken if a person is injured by a bird of prey. So if a raptor bird, like an owl, a hawk, an eagle, something like that, kills and eats an animal that is infected with the rabies virus, it's possible that the infected fluids from the bird of prey could remain on their talons or a beak, probably for a very, very, very short amount of time. But if then that animal were to scratch another animal, like the raptor bird were to scratch another animal or a human, it's possible that they could get infected. It is very not likely. I don't believe that would happen because I think the virus would probably die pretty quickly once it's not in the body anymore. Do not quote me for gospel on that. But that was something I wanted to research because in Bridgewater, I'm not going to give spoilers away, but there is mention of a rabies vaccine given to one of the characters after a supposed owl attack. And I was like, why would they give rabies vaccine if he got attacked by an owl?
And for our listeners, if you are newer tuning in or just missed our many, many mentions of Bridgewater in the past, it's an audio drama by Aaron Mahnke, the person that does lore.
Yes.
And it has the one and only Misha Collins in it.
My man,
Castiel.
Misha. Castiel, my overlord. Anyone out there that does Gish, you're my brethren. So rabies is spread by saliva. Rabies cannot transfer through unbroken skin. So if they get it on there, if you get the infected saliva on your arm and you don't have any cuts or bruises or anything, it cannot transmit through your skin. But if your skin is broken in any way and that saliva can pass the skin barrier, that is how infection occurs.
Okay.
In the same way, if a rabid animal licks another animal or person over an area where the skin is broken, the virus can be passed that way. Rarely the virus can be transmitted through airborne droplets. Common example I saw for this was if a person or animal entered a cave where there were infected bats, but I think if I was understanding what I was reading correctly, there would have to be like an insane amount of infected bats in that cave that you would be in there with to create enough aerosol droplets to infect a person.
That sounds like a horror movie.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It's like a bat zombie movie.
Stephen King, get out of the way. So rabies is preventable through vaccination. While typically seen in animals, rabies vaccines, humans may also receive rabies vaccines. Oftentimes, veterinary professionals receive vaccines due to the potential for exposure to infected animals. Post-exposure rabies vaccines may also be given if a person is exposed to the rabies virus, but they must be given as quickly as possible.
Can they give them to animals too, or is that just for humans?
We kind of get into post-bite protocol a little later, if that makes sense. We'll get there. Yes, another fun fact about rabies is there is a World Rabies Day, which is September 28th of each year. So I thought that was fun.
So it's September 28th.
September 28th. So I want to get into some statistics here. The rabies virus can be found globally on every continent except Antarctica. In the United States, rabies is most commonly found in wildlife. And would you like to take a stab at guessing which animals are the most common rabies carriers in the United States?
Cats.
No, actually.
Raccoons.
Mm-hmm.
Bats.
Mm-hmm. Got two of them.
Mice.
Not mice.
Sasquatches. Sorry.
That's equally horrifying and so sad.
They don't get rabies. Maybe they do get rabies vaccines. That's why we just don't see them when they're
That's
rabid.
true. That's true. They're not rabid.
They roll on up to the vet offices at night, and then the next morning the vet people come in and they're like, "Why are we short 3 vaccines?" Okay, what was the one I'm missing?
So they are bats, raccoons, skunks, and foxes.
I forgot skunks existed.
Yeah. Rabies is not as commonly found in domestic animals in the U.S. There has been an uptick of rabies being found in domestic cats, though, due to owners not having them vaccinated. Even indoor cats can be exposed to rabies for multiple reasons. They can get out of the house. Sometimes outdoor animals can get into the house. I personally had an experience with that one time where I was sleeping over at my riding instructor's old house, and a bat got into my room.
Oh, was it rabid?
Oh, I hope not. I hid under the covers until it left.
That's what I do with spiders.
Yeah, pretty much. So, things happen like that. I've even heard stories, like, of people I know where, like, squirrels have gotten into their houses.
Oh, yeah.
Or, you just don't know. And if you have a cat in the house, he never goes outside. Okay, well, you just had a bat in your house, and you really want to hope your cat didn't just kill that bat, or that the bat didn't bite your cat, or something like that.
Can I share my possum story?
Oh, please share your possum story.
Were we recording this podcast, or were we recording the Good Omens one?
I think it was this one.
It would have been very early on.
Yeah.
So there was a hole under my porch. And I know possums don't normally carry rabies, but there was something horribly wrong with this possum. Because I was upstairs in the first floor, and I heard this crashing sound in the basement. And so I go down there, and I see glowing eyes, and I'm like, crap, this is a possum.
Yeah.
So then I called, like, the game warden or animal control or whatever, and they're like, is it rabbit? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't get close enough to ask it.
I'm not getting close enough to find out,
so
dude.
I had to call someone to remove it.
Yeah.
And the person was like, this they were like, this possum is really sick, because it shouldn't be out, and it was walking in circles, and it was lethargic. And I was like, great. So, like,
did they tell you it wasn't rabid? Did they test it, or?
I don't know.
It's possible then. It might have.
I know they don't normally get it, but I know they can.
Right.
But apparently possums carry, well, I mean, I have an EPM horse. For non-horse people, that's a protozoal infection of the central nervous system.
Yeah, it's really
which can be fatal.
Yeah.
And that comes from possum feces.
Yes. Does it come from raccoons too?
I don't know. I'll have to look.
Anyway.
Possums actually carry a lot of diseases. That was a great day. We recorded.
Poor Brie was traumatized. In the U.S., there are 3,579 reported cases among animals there were that number of reported cases of rabies among animals in 2002. Very few people in the United States die from rabies, less than 10 people a year. Globally, however, an estimated 70,000 deaths occur to people due to rabies exposure. While this is rare in the United States, roughly 95% of human deaths occurring due to rabies in other countries are due to dog bites. Rabid dogs are a major problem in certain areas of Central America, Asia, and Africa. Post-exposure prophylaxis, or in layman's terms, access to ways to prevent the virus after exposure to it, such as post-exposure vaccines, can also be harder to find in these areas. So think like developing countries, poor nations, like poverty-stricken areas, that kind of thing. People that are most at risk of contracting rabies in the United States are people who travel to other countries, as discussed above, those who enjoy certain outdoor activities that bring them closer to wild animals, of course, and those who work around animals. So shelter workers, veterinarians, vet techs, rehabbers, that kind of thing. I actually had, thankfully this is before I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, spoiler alert, I went to Belize, and they did warn us about, like, you need to be careful about when we go into villages and stuff, don't just pet random dogs. You need to be very careful, because
that would be so hard.
Yeah. And I stupidly did a couple times, and thankfully did not contract rabies, and none of the animals were aggressive to me that I touched, or I would not have touched them. But, like, looking back now, especially with OCD, I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
But we, like, one of the resorts we stayed in had a little resort cat named Whiskey. She was so cute.
Named Whiskey.
Whiskey. Shout out to Bocawina Rainforest Resorts. You guys are phenomenal. Anyway.
Is this where the murder cave was?
No, that was, I forget what the name of that cave is. I should do an episode about it.
I'm
it's
just
really cool.
Gonna refer to it as the murder cave from now on.
The sacrifice cave.
I hope that's not, like, culturally. That's the word I want.
We're gonna get canceled.
What's culturally insensitive?
Insensitive, yeah. But yeah, this cat, they actually were telling us, like, this specific animal is safe to pet because it is up to date on rabies and everything. You do not need to worry about this animal. You know, you're allowed to pet this one. Yes. Fun fact, I had this type of experience in traveling. So for those who like to go to other countries, just be aware. I want to also talk about rabies pathology and symptoms. Rabies is normally transmitted through the saliva of an infected animal via a bite or sometimes a scratch. The virus travels via the body's nerves to the brain and spinal cord. When it reaches these vital areas, it's able to multiply. Once the brain and spinal cord has been reached, the disease is normally fatal. The virus travels over other nerves until it reaches the salivary glands, which that's how it's able to be transferred. It can take as few as 10 days for the rabies virus to reach the brain. Normally, it's closer to 30 to 50 days. And the time can depend on the entry point of the virus. So, for example, if someone gets bit in the leg by a rabid animal versus in the upper body or the face. In this time, it is vital to seek treatment to stop the virus, because I cannot say this enough. This is a fatal disease. It is always fatal unless treatment is sought very, very quickly after exposure. Visible symptoms start to present once the virus reaches the brain or the spinal cord. You want to take some stabs here at the symptoms?
I don't know if this is in the right order, if this is the right answers.
Oh, that's okay.
Isn't like discoordination part of it? Feverishness?
Yes. Okay.
Salivary glands start to work overtime. I think I mentioned earlier, like almost psychosis symptoms where like the animal is I don't know if it's a myth, but being afraid of water. Okay.
That's a big one, actually.
Okay.
And I go into that, so.
And like I think it's incredibly painful too. So they're going to be probably making some pretty sad sounds.
Yeah.
Growling at things that aren't there.
Very aggressive.
Yeah.
Yes. Some of the symptoms can start with something as simple as just feeling sick, like a mild illness. The infected party could have a headache or a fever.
Sorry, that's like how I feel half the time.
Oh, no. Should we get you post-exposure vaccines? No, I'm just kidding. You're like, I have enough else going on.
I don't
Leave
think
me alone.
anything's bit me recently.
Yeah. Neurologic symptoms also develop, including feeling restless, confused, or overly excited. These neurologic symptoms can increase to the point where the person is, or presumably animals, I would assume, is starting to experience hallucinations and insomnia. The symptoms will continue to get worse the farther the disease spreads through the brain. Makes sense. There will be drastic increase in the amount of saliva produced, which causes the foaming at the mouth that's often seen in animals that are rabid. Muscular spasms in the throat and larynx will begin, and they can be agonizing. They occur because the area of the brain that rabies attacks, which the center that is the center that controls swallowing, breathing, and speaking. And due to these spasms, the affected party can't drink. So oftentimes people think, oh, an animal's hydrophobic, or a person could be hydrophobic because they cannot drink.
Yeah.
And it would probably be excruciating to try. So you would get extremely thirsty and dehydrated. By the end, the affected person or animal will fall into a coma and then pass away. The actual cause of death can be attributed to blocked airways, paralysis, seizures, and just straight out exhaustion. Your body just gives up.
Because you can only go a very short amount of time without water, too.
I think it's like 3 days max you can go without water.
It's like 2 weeks without food, isn't it?
Yeah. It's insane how long you can go without food, but the water, you will die very quickly. Sometimes rabies symptoms begin with a tingling feeling or paralysis in the bitten limb. This happens in about 20% of infected humans. From the infection site, the paralysis will eventually spread to the rest of the body. And however, in these cases, most of the other symptoms don't develop. So basically, you're just sitting there slowly becoming paralyzed until you die.
So, like, you're not going to have any of, like, the pain and stuff? You're just going to start to lose the ability to control your body?
I imagine it would eventually start to become pretty painful. I don't know for certain. But yeah, the neurologic symptoms don't necessarily develop. So you're not necessarily sitting there hallucinating or being super, super restless, or in animals, I guess, if it presented this way. In animals, this statistic stated it only happens in about 20% of humans. I'm not sure how often it presents this way in animals, to be clear. But presumably, I would assume if it did affect this way in animals, the animal would probably just lay there and be extremely lethargic. You wouldn't see the typical aggression for no reason, the ataxy, which just means like stumbling around, that kind of thing. So either way, it's a horrible, horrible, horrible way to go. Sometimes I think that gets lost, especially in American pop culture. We think, oh, rabies, oh, that's so scary, but it's not understood just how bad it is. Like, this is a bad. You don't want to get this disease.
And, like, correct me if I'm wrong, like, in a lot of animals, this is really preventable.
Yes.
Like, by making sure, we are not sponsored by rabies vaccines, but, like, a PSA
Can
here.
you imagine?
PSA here, like, if you have animals, get them vaccinated. And I understand sometimes things come up where it's hard to afford that, but it's worth looking into. Sometimes vets and SPCAs and stuff will have low-cost and free vaccination clinics.
Sure.
Like, Tractor Supplies have that.
Yeah. I'm going to go from here into the history of rabies, which is insane. And I want to shout out my source for this one in particular because most of the information I pulled for the historical section is from an article I found on the National Library of Medicine website. So shout out to that article. It's really long. It's a bit of a complex article, but it's really interesting.
You tend to have a lot more legit sources than I do.
For this one, I forgot because you did this for rabies. For my...
Oh, you know what? I did have a
Migraines
lot of
comes out,
legit sources for migraines.
Yes.
That comes out tomorrow. I mean,
okay.
Not when you hear this. This will come out in the past. It'll be the past then. But.
Yes, but it comes out before this episode. So if you remember from rabies, I did it again. If you remember from migraines, Brie was like, I didn't use Wikipedia for this. I didn't use Wikipedia for this either.
I did use Reddit for migraines. Did you use Reddit for this?
I didn't, but I don't think there's probably a lot of people that could tell their stories about contracting rabies.
You haven't been on Reddit very much.
True.
You know what? There's 3 episodes I think are going to be like a trinity. Mm-hmm. It's this one, migraines, and your one that we haven't recorded yet.
Yes, correct.
It's like what we did with the unicorn and fairy episode. We're like,
yeah.
Not deer, but we're not talking about not deer in that episode. Purcell, we're not talking about Baroque musicians.
So the history of rabies. The disease rabies has been known to humans for about 4,000 years. The origin of the word rabies, which is Latin for rabies, could possibly come from rabhas, R-A-B-H-A-S, or rabasa in Sanskrit.
Looks right to me.
Perfect.
I never studied Sanskrit, so I'm not...
Yeah, neither one of us have. In 1945 and 1947, 2 tablets were discovered in modern-day Iraq that described the Sumerian laws of the ancient city-state of Eshnuna, I believe is how it's pronounced, that describe a link between the bite of an animal and human death. Eshnuna was most prominent around 1950 to 1850 BC, so a long time ago.
Or BCE, depending on...
Yes, or BCE, marking the time that rabies was documented to be around 4,000 years. That's where they got that number. The section of the cuneiform tablet relating to rabies supposedly translates to, quote, if a dog becomes rabid and the ward authority makes that known to its owner, but he does not watch over his dog so that it bites a man and causes his death, the owner of the dog shall pay 40 shekels of silver. Continuing the quote, if it bites a slave and causes his death, he shall pay 15 shekels of silver. However, another translation describes the dog as being not rabid, but, quote, vicious or furious. Pretty close.
Yeah, and I wonder if this is kind of like a Hammurabi's code.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it's called?
I'm not sure.
It's kind of... Okay, let's put on our ancient religion, biblical historian hats here.
Excellent.
I think with Hammurabi's code, a lot of like the 10 Commandments came similar to that. It was an ancient Mesopotamian text.
Okay.
About how people, like how the society should interact with each other.
Okay.
I don't think I'm making that up. I could be. Who knows?
We're wilding on something strange over here. There were also at least 5 Mesopotamian tablets discovered with, quote, dog incantations written on them. They describe rabies as being caused by something in the dog's saliva, similar to how poison can be transferred by snakes and scorpions.
Venom.
Right. Well, yes, venom. Sorry. My bad.
Sorry. I said that so... I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
Venom. Not... I wasn't like...
No, you're good. These tablets indicate that herbs were applied after a person was bit by a dog. They also indicate the belief that dogs were more likely to become rabid when a lunar eclipse happened.
Is that like an early thing of like dogmen and werewolves? Is there like a connection there?
I'm not sure, honestly.
If anyone knows about that,
Please
DM
let us know. That would be cool. Clay tablets were also found that show Akkadian incantations used by healers after a bite when medicine didn't work. In classic antiquity, there is evidence that rabies was starting to be better understood. There are references to rabies by Aristotle. I almost said Aeropostale.
It's like the new clothing line.
Yes, there are references to rabies by a teenager clothing line. Anyway, Aristotle, Hippocrates, and Pliny, to name a few, that describe symptoms of rabies in both humans and dogs. A description was written by one author, Caelius or Elias, of palliative care for patients who had contracted rabies. Another author, Galen, noted that...
Hey! He came up in the migraine episode. We
did.
know him.
Yes, we do know him.
Sorry.
He noted that rabies symptoms didn't occur right away when a patient was bit. So, for being so early on, we have a lot of understanding of this disease.
Yeah, because that's like early Roman and Greek-ish time.
Right.
Our friend Galen.
Moving over to China at that same time, Ji Hong of the Jin dynasty made similar observations to the Greek authors, noting the delayed onset of symptoms after a bite. He also recommended putting a bit of the affected dog's brain tissue to the bite wound as a disease preventative. That does not work. Don't do it.
Okay, I was just like, is there any like credence to that?
No.
Okie dokie.
Despite the new observations about the disease, post-infection prevention remained pretty primitive. So, like we said, putting an organ of a presumably dead animal because it's not going to survive.
I hope so.
Yeah, on the bite wound, that kind of thing. Moving forward to the Middle Ages, progress for the disease prevention and cure did not really increase. Religion did start to creep its way into various quote-unquote treatments at this time. This is where our trigger warning for scary medical procedures is going to come in, folks. Heads up.
This is where it comes in?
Yes.
Not the putting dog brain on your bites?
I mean, yeah, that's pretty scary, but
I'm saying this is scarier?
I think it is.
Okay, let's go. Let's do this.
Certain religious sites in Europe claim to have found a quote-unquote miracle cure for the disease. And we all know what that means. Lois First the Pious, I believe it's Lois, it's spelled Lois, who was Charlemagne's successor, allowed the transfer of a saint's thigh bones to the church of the village of Andage, later renamed St. Hubert. I was a little confused about how the article wrote this, but I think what I'm understanding is that the thigh bones of St. Hubert himself were placed in this church, and that's why the church was renamed St. Hubert.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
St. Hubert himself was said to be a Christian saint who cured rabies and who got the cure from St. Peter. Due to this, the church became a, quote, specialized center for rabies prevention. One of these preventative measures was applying a white-hot key of St. Hubert to dogs so they would not contract the disease.
I have questions.
Yes.
What made this key special?
Well, a St.
Just wait, there's more.
I was like, what is a St. Hubert's key? A St. Hubert's key was a bar, nail, or cross that was hung on the wall of a home for protection. According to the Science Museum group, in the case of humans contracting rabies, a priest would puncture an afflicted person's forehead and apply a black bandage. Then the St. Hubert's key, was heated and placed on the bite site. This is why I say I think this is scarier than the dog brain thing. Apparently, this could potentially help if applied immediately to the wound because the metal would cauterize and sterilize it and then kill the virus. So like we said, the virus has to travel along the neural pathways, the nerves, to get to the brain before it begins to be able to multiply. So it kind of makes a sick sort of sense. Like, if you catch it fast enough and you cauterize that wound, I feel like it would have to be pretty instantaneous. It could hypothetically kill that virus before it is able to multiply and cause the damage that it does.
Okay.
It's just really horrible because essentially they're branding people, which I can't do burns. That's like my thing in the medical field where burns just get me really bad. So reading this and researching, I was like, and they were apparently running around and doing this to dogs just as a preventative. The dogs weren't even sick. They were just, anyway.
Man.
Yeah. Back to the National Library of Medicine article, another method to cure the disease was to make a cut in the person's forehead and implant threads from St. Hubert's stole.
Man, they really liked doing weird head stuff in like the middle. Because, I mean, we talked about trepanning before and putting drugged poultices. Have some opium for your open wound.
Yeah. I mean, in the case of rabies, this is a dark joke. In the case of rabies, you might as well do some drugs about it because you're going to have a bad time.
Was the poke on the head, was that a callback? Like Ash Wednesday when they would put like...
Oh.
Did they do that? I know they do that now in churches. Did they do like the...
I don't know, actually. That's a good thought. I genuinely don't know, but I mean, it makes sense to me that it would call back to that.
I don't know when that tradition started.
Yeah, that I'm not sure of.
Anyways.
But interesting. Cauterization of wounds inflicted by an infected animal with rabies continued into the 19th century. Unfortunately, there was another practice that began that also continued into the 19th century, and this is a quote. At St. Tugen, I believe it's Tugen Chapel, patients with declared rabies were stifled between mattresses until the beginning of the 19th century.
What does that mean?
Pretty sure, I don't know this for 100% certain.
Is it a trigger warning?
Potentially.
Okay.
How I read that was they would basically shove a person between mattresses to pin them in place until they died.
So it's like a restraint.
Yeah.
So
I think.
So that they couldn't... Okay.
Hurt themselves, hurt other
others.
people. Because like we were talking about at the beginning of the episode, the pathology of this thing is really bad. So by the end, this person, hypothetically, could be thrashing around. You know, they could be showing aggression. They could be hallucinating. They could be... So that's pretty terrible. Moving forward in time, in 1650, rabies was actually used as a form of biological warfare by a Polish-Lithuanian general, Kazimierz Semeniowicz. Thank you.
Yes, the Polish helps.
Semenowicz? Did I pronounce that?
Semenowicz, I think so.
Okay.
Watch, we have like Polish listeners and they're like, you're an idiot. You're definitely American because you don't know how to fucking pronounce things in our language.
Do you even Polish, bro?
Do you even Polish, bro? I bet you can't even make pierogies.
Oh, I'd be heartbroken. I love pierogies. So, Kazimierz Semenowicz used rabies as a biological weapon by putting the saliva of infected dogs into hollow shells, which he would then fire at people.
Oh my God.
Wild to me. That's reckless. In medieval Europe, amulets called madstones were used as a defense against rabies because it was believed they neutralized the rabies agent. These quote-unquote madstones were actually bezoars or gallstones. Bezoars are a collection of partially digested material that clumps up in the stomach.
Delightful.
And yes, real gross. These were actually used up to the 19th century, which is kind of sad because honestly, I think we see this with fairly often a lot of old-timey diseases and whatnot that people just didn't know how to cure. They would resort to desperation. Mm-hmm. And so just the fact that those were used up into the 1800s is because they just didn't know what else to do. That sucks. Dog-related rabies also began to spread out of Europe. There were bat-related cases of rabies in what is now Central and South America, but there really weren't many cases of dog-related rabies until after European conquerors, quote-unquote, landed in the quote-unquote New World with their dogs.
So, did rabies start on one continent, or was it just kind of always on all the ones but Antarctica?
I'm not certain of that answer, but I believe it was probably in all the continents, but because dogs were, rabid dogs were such a big thing in Europe, the actual cases of dogs getting rabies increased drastically.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that does. Okay.
Yeah. Rabies also began to emerge on Caribbean islands and islands in the Indian Ocean. In the Caribbean, mongooses had been introduced to help reduce the rat population because they were destroying sugar fields. But rabies started to run through the mongoose population.
That sounds horrifying.
Yeah, right? Can you
A
imagine
rabid
a rabid
mongoose?
mongoose? Yeah.
Good Lord.
Not fun. Back in Europe, however, there was a lot of progress, thankfully, finally, in reducing the amount of dog bites and therefore rabies prevention in cities. However, rabies prevention post-bite still hadn't made very much progress. There just wasn't enough in the medical field to make it possible at that point. Prevention was still heavily faith-based and more or less relied on typical, quote-unquote, old-timey treatments, we'll say. In London in the 1830s, cauterization of potentially rabies-infected wounds was still happening. We kind of talked about that a little bit. If rabies had actually clinically been diagnosed in a patient, treatments could have included being plunged into cold water or hot oil. I believe and really, really hope this next part doesn't apply to people, but sometimes they were euthanized by being stuffed between mattresses, which I alluded to earlier, or by being bled to death. And not that I want to think of that happening to animals either, but yeah, it just was bad.
Yeah.
You didn't want this disease. So we're moving on to something a little less dark.
Yay.
The invention of the rabies vaccine.
You need to find an applause sound for that,
We do. Oh, I'll find one. We now have a vaccine to both prevent the disease as well as post-exposure vaccines. But how did we get here? Around the turn of the 19th century, things also began to take a positive turn in the study of rabies. Science was, of course, evolving as the years went on, and a more scientific approach began to be taken in regard to rabies, the disease itself. A lot of experimentation was done on rabies transmission. The nervous system was identified as the source of how the virus traveled, and in 1842, rabies was identified as a virus rather than a poison or a venom. I'm going to try and make a long story short here. There was a lot of research and experimentation that went into developing the rabies vaccine by many different people, in particular by veterinarians. In 1881, a very important name in the history of rabies prevention came on the scene. Good old Louis Pasteur. Does he sound familiar?
I don't know.
He pasteurized milk.
Oh!
Yeah, the pasteurization process.
I didn't know that was named after someone.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Louis Pasteur.
Is he French?
Yes.
Okay.
He was very French. Sorry, that was probably very offensive to anyone who's French.
Okay,
I'm so sorry.
You've offended the French. I offended anyone in Belize who doesn't call it the murder cave.
We're all countries are going to cancel us. We're fine.
It's fine.
Louis Pasteur was heavily involved in the research that developed the post-exposure rabies vaccine. He and his teammates at the École.
I don't do French.
I'm so sorry, guys. École Normale Supérieure.
I don't do French. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys.
We learned that in the Marie Laveau episode. I do not do French.
I don't think either one of us do. These people were able to take advantage of all of the research and data that had already been collected to further their own research. So the veterinarians and whatnot that had been doing a lot of this research, Pasteur and his team took that and built on it. Before their rabies research, the team had already created a vaccine for fowl cholera, and by fowl, F-O-W-L, like birds. Mm-hmm. And were in process of creating a vaccine protecting against anthrax.
Oh.
Yeah. They used the techniques developed in the creation of those vaccines to work towards creating a rabies vaccine. And they used dogs and rabbits in the creation of this vaccine. This is where the trigger warning of animal experimentation goes here. I'm not going to go deep into it, but just know it was happening. On July 4th, 1885, things really started to pop off in the world of rabies research. P.S. July 4th is my birthday. Well, what?
I was going to say, it's another it's an important date for many reasons.
On July 4th, 1885, a 9-year-old boy, Joseph Meister, was attacked by a dog in Alsace, a region in France. The dog also bit its owner, Mr. Theodore Vaughan, once, but due to the bite being through cloth, it never actually broke the skin, so that guy got very lucky. Joseph, however, was not so lucky, and he was bitten 14 times.
Holy cow.
Yeah. 12 hours after the attack, local doctor Eugene Weber visited the boy's home where he cleaned the wounds with carbolic acid. After he left the home, he went to a cafe to wait for a coach to take him home, and he struck up a conversation with other cafe patrons. These people were described in the article as quote-unquote clients. I think he was talking about clients at the cafe and not like his other patients, but I'm not 100% certain. He was informed that Pasteur had allegedly developed a rabies vaccine by this point. He quickly told the Meister family about the vaccine, and in desperation, the family boarded a train to Paris, which arrived in the city on July 6th. Now remember, I mentioned earlier that the rabies vaccine can take as little as 10 days to reach the brain. Sometimes it's usually a little longer.
The virus, you mean?
I'm sorry, what did I say?
Vaccine.
I meant the virus. Yes, the rabies virus can take as short a time as 10 days to reach the brain. So we're 2 days in. However, one of Pasteur's teammates, Emile Roux, R-O-U-X,
Sounds right,
had reservations about administering the vaccine to the child. Basically, he was concerned because while the vaccination was developed in dogs, it hadn't actually yet been tested for human use. Therefore, Roux did not administer this vaccine. Instead, Jacques-Joseph Granser gave the vaccine subcutaneously to the child, which means under the skin, observed by Louis Pasteur. Pasteur himself couldn't give the vaccine because he was a chemist. He was not a doctor, so he legally was unauthorized to give the vaccine. The child also received an additional 12 doses of the vaccine, each one more and more virulent, in order to trigger his immune response against the disease. And he survived.
Woo! That's exciting, actually.
Yeah, it's really cool because this was, I can't imagine that moment, because this has literally been such an awful disease that has just plagued the world for so long. So to watch this young child go through that and his parents, I can't imagine his parents, because his parents had to have been just absolutely terrified and just destroyed knowing what their child was hypothetically going to go through. So yeah, I just love that. I love thinking about that, because to go from that fear to the relief and just joy. See Roxy celebrating too. Another attempt at inoculating a human was done in 1885 when 15-year-old Jean-Baptiste Jupil?
What a French name.
Yes. Was bit by a dog on October 14th.
That's close to my birthday.
It is.
It's 7 days after my birthday, to be exact.
He received the post-exposure vaccine between the dates of October 20th through the 30th. I'm assuming he went through the same procedure as Joseph did, so the multiple vaccines based on the number of days that the article noted, so 20th through the 30th, the 10 days there. I'm assuming he might have got one once a day or something like that. Pre-exposure vaccines also started being administered to I'm sorry.
Did he survive?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, to be clear. Pre-exposure vaccines also started being administered to members of Pasteur's team. Granser was the first to receive the pre-exposure vaccine. And as well, Joseph, our friend Joseph, who had become a team member at that point. He went on to join Louis Pasteur's team.
At 12 years old?
Once he got older.
Oh, it's congratulations, you are test subject number 1. Welcome to the team. You got a jacket and everything.
You're doing great.
Got to keep you for scientific study.
Yes. I'm not sure where exactly the timeline was there, because I did admittedly have to kind of fly through this article. Once you start to get involved in the scientific jargon and whatnot, it gets to be kind of a lot, and I didn't want to just obviously can't do this for copyright reasons, but I didn't want to just start relaying the article word for word, so I apologize, my timeline is a little weird here. Joseph had become an assistant to the Pasteur team, and he received a rabies booster vaccine after being bit by a guinea pig that had been experimentally infected with rabies.
Man, he has no luck.
He was struggling.
They need some better PPE.
Yeah, they do. I mean, it took till what year was it that people decided, hey, we should probably wash our hands?
Or wear helmets?
Yeah, truly. Apparently, the second post-exposure vaccine Joseph didn't tolerate it as well as his first, but the article didn't really go into it any further. It just kind of mentioned he didn't tolerate it as well. At that time, too, the rabies vaccine wasn't fully developed. It's obviously not as developed as today's vaccines are, so it makes sense that he could have had a more adverse reaction. From here, Louis Pasteur and his team began to offer post-exposure rabies vaccines out of their laboratory at the place I mentioned earlier, École Normale Supérieure. They continued to research and collect data on the number of deaths reported after people received post-exposure vaccines, which showed the death count continued to drop when post-exposure vaccines were given versus if post-exposure vaccines were not received after a rabies bite. Rabies today. As I mentioned above, World Rabies Day is celebrated yearly on September 28th. The day honors Louis Pasteur in his creation of the rabies vaccine.
So is it World Rabies Day or is it World Rabies Vaccination Day?
World Rabies Day. September 28th marks the day of Louis Pasteur's passing. That's why they call it that.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. The day is meant to raise awareness of rabies prevention across the globe. While surfing around on the WHO website, World Health Organization website, about World Rabies Day, I found that there are actual events that some organizations put on about rabies, and there are different themes for World Rabies Day each year that the organizations will base their events on these themes, which I thought that was really cool.
That is interesting.
Yeah. There are also rabies prevention organizations now in today's modern day. There are multiple organizations whose aim is to prevent, control, and end rabies globally. One of these that I found is called Mission Rabies, and I actually heard about Mission Rabies, I believe it was these people, a while ago, and I thought it was really interesting, so I got really excited to research them more in depth. Per Mission Rabies, over 99% of rabies cases in humans are due to bites by infected dogs. Many healthy dogs are killed due to fear of this disease, and I believe they were specifically referencing places such as developing countries, kind of like how I talked about earlier, where rabies protocol and prevention isn't as prevalent. However, this is not the most effective prevention for the disease, like culling dogs, essentially.
Yeah.
Vaccination. The quote on their website says, "Science shows that the most effective long-term rabies control strategy is through vaccination of dogs in endemic areas. So we head to rabies hotspots and run mass vaccination and education programs, protecting both the human and canine populations." Which I just think that's really cool.
That is
I think
cool.
it's a cool organization. I highly recommend you go check out their website. I will put it in the show notes. It's just a neat thing. They have opportunities for volunteering. They have all kinds of information about rabies on there if you want to learn more. It seems like an awesome organization. I also want to talk about the Milwaukee Protocol, which is a very fascinating, at least I think so, development in the treatment of rabies. In 2004, a teenager, Gina
Geese?
Geese. I'm sorry, Gina, if you're listening and I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I believe it's Giese. It's Giese. Was bitten by a bat in Wisconsin and unfortunately did not seek treatment until her symptoms began. We've already said this. Normally, once symptoms begin, this disease is fatal. However, there was a doctor who, in absolute desperation, and his name was Dr. Rodney Willoughby Jr., he was desperate to save Gina. So he placed her into a medically induced coma and then administered antiviral drugs. The medically induced coma allowed Gina to stay alive, but essentially shut her brain down so that the rabies virus could no longer attack it. The drugs administered were given in an effort to boost Gina's immune response. Basically, he was trying to stall the virus's progress long enough for Gina's body to fight the virus by itself, rather than trying to fight it with drugs, if that makes sense. Amazingly, the procedure worked. Gina was woken from the medically induced coma after 6 days, and after 31 days, the doctors declared the virus had cleared her system. She was finally allowed to go home after 76 days. And she did have some neurological impairments afterwards, particularly with speech, but her cognitive abilities were mostly unharmed. The procedure is now known as the Milwaukee Protocol, and to be clear, this is not a catch-all to cure rabies. Getting post-exposure vaccines if bitten by an infected animal or bite prevention in general is still crucial. While the protocol does offer hope to patients showing symptoms who have been exposed to the virus, patients are not guaranteed to survive or fully recover from this. I don't know this for certain, but I'm guessing that once the virus progresses to a certain extent to where symptoms are being shown, it's one of those, while this protocol was able to stop the virus, it couldn't necessarily go back and fix the damage that was already done. I think EPM is like that too, since we were talking about that earlier. Don't quote me for gospel on that, but that's kind of what makes sense in my brain. Again, if you get bit, go to a hospital.
Right away.
Right away. Don't wait. Just do it. I also mentioned a little bit earlier rabies in pop culture. I think especially in this country where it's not such an endemic as it is in other countries. It's seen as this kind of fantastical thing, like scary bedtime story versus like, oh no, this is actually really serious and you should be scared of it type of thing.
It's like a boogeyman here.
Yes, that is an excellent way to describe it. Are there any references you can think of pop culture?
I have two that are probably pretty common, and I have one that I'm not sure if it's a thing or not.
Oh, go for it.
So I said Cujo earlier.
Yep.
Actually, I have three that are normal.
Oh.
Old Yeller, was that Rabies?
Mm-hmm. That's a sad movie, y'all.
I read the book.
Oh, yeah.
I had all of the Little House on the Prairie books at one point, and I feel like there was an animal that contracted.
Oh.
I could be remembering that wrong, though. I could be confusing that and Old Yeller.
Oh, me. I'll have to ask my mother about that, actually, because she loves Little House on the Prairie. She has all the books. She loves Laura Ingalls Wilder. So I'll have to ask her about that.
I had all the books. My grandmother gave them to me at one point. I don't know what happened to them. Hope they don't listen to that. Okay. So, in the pilot episode of Has Been, in Charlie's song, that's really fast.
Oh.
Like, isn't there a reference to it in there?
There is. You're right. Go watch Has Been Hotel.
I was like, because I wouldn't know that without the song.
Yeah.
And that song is very hard to sing because it's very fast.
And it's high.
Yeah. It's doable. Like, they could have sped it up, but I don't think they did. They could have sped it up. Like, it could be sped up, but I don't know that it is.
Yeah.
You can sing that fast.
Props to the actress whose name is escaping me, forgive me, who sang that because...
Hold on.
Y'all.
Elsie Lovelock.
Elsie...
Lovelock.
Lovelock. Elsie Lovelock. You have an awesome name. Come on the podcast. Come talk to us about rabies.
Talk to us about rabies.
You sang about it in Has Been, and we love you. You're great. Well, the Has Been pilot. You're great.
And the Has Been pilot, yes.
So
and some of like the extra songs that she did with like with Black Griffin.
Oh, with Black. Yeah, I was thinking
Who was the singing voice? He was the singing voice of Alistair.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize he was Alistair's singing voice.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I didn't know that.
That's why he did Insane and Daisies.
Oh,
it's all coming to you now.
I literally thought he was just a fan.
No,
because I know Vivzy Pop has taken a couple fan songs. Addict was a fan song, and I thought that.
No, he was the singing voice of Alistair.
He's
a really cool YouTuber too. Also,
yeah, we love you guys.
I know of him through Rumi Official actually, which is another music YouTuber.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, we love you guys. Shout out to them. Go check them out.
All of them. Check out all of the YouTube.
Yes, exactly. Maybe not all of the YouTube.
That's true. Not all. Just that particular section.
Correct. There's also another wild pop culture reference. Edgar Allan Poe. It is possible that he died from rabies.
That was one of. He died on my birthday, just a different year.
Oh.
Did you not know that?
No, I did, but I did not think about that until now. I'm sure I have it in here, but
that's my icebreaker.
That's cool.
Fact.
That's 2 truths and a lie. That's cool. So I won't go into full details here because Poe could be a fascinating topic in and of himself, and I don't want to necessarily take that away from us in the future. But there is a theory that the famous poet may have succumbed to rabies.
But yeah, that was one of there's a lot of theories.
Yeah. At the end of his life, Edgar was discovered by a man named Joseph W. Walker. Joseph found him outside the polling location, Gunner Hall in Baltimore. Edgar was lying in the gutter, unable to move. Up until his death 4 days later, Edgar never came back to full consciousness and experienced delirium and hallucinations. He was never able to explain how he came to be in the state that he was in. So the rabies theory was put forward over a century later at a conference being held about clinical pathology. At this conference, the doctors in attendance were given a patient. They were given their patient's medical condition and a list of symptoms. Their job was to diagnose this patient and then compare their diagnosis with the patient's medical record and the other doctors. So this was like an exercise. Mm-hmm. One of the participants was a cardiologist, Dr. R. Michael Benitz. I'm sorry, Dr. Benitz. I think it's Dr. Benitz. That sounds good. Benitez. Dr. Benitz was given the patient EP and was told the patient was a writer from Richmond, Virginia. The patient's history stated that he had been admitted to a hospital for lethargy and confusion, and from there had begun to experience psychological symptoms such as delirium and visual hallucinations. He also developed an unstable pulse and shallow respirations before his death 4 days later. Based on the patient history and the symptoms, Dr. Benitz diagnosed his patient with rabies. The theory is compelling, but it's not 100% waterproof. Edgar didn't experience hydrophobia, which we talked about before is a huge symptom in rabies, because the patient can't drink. And there was no evidence of an animal bite either.
Do they know that for sure, though? Because he was, like, comatose pretty much.
That's a good question. I don't know. There was also no DNA evidence to test, which makes it impossible to conclusively state that Edgar passed due to rabies. However, Dr. Benitez did not know who his patient was going into this exercise, which made it so that he went in with a completely unbiased view of this case. Rabies was also still pretty common in the 1800s, as we've learned, so it's not out of the range of possibility. And I had to think to myself, too, okay, they didn't find evidence of a bite wound. I presume they would have done an autopsy, but it could also be through scratches. So if they saw a scratch, they could have been, oh, he knocked himself on the pavement.
Yeah. His whole death is, like, just as mysterious as some of his writings. That would be, I think he's on my list.
Yeah.
Because his death day is my birthday. That's one of the main reasons that he's on there.
I love it.
And I also like Poe's work, too. I like dark stuff, though.
Yes. The Masquerade Death.
Oh, I did a whole, I was in, like, was it accelerated English in college?
Yes.
Is that what it's called?
Yes.
It was a long time ago.
I was
in accelerated English class in college, and I did a whole paper on what the different colors in the different rooms represented in the Mask of the Red Death. That was one of my favorite papers.
That's cool. Honestly, that ticks my little art history nerd box.
I remember nothing about it because that was 2011.
Yeah. We are old.
We are old.
Nah.
But that was like, I remember like really enjoying writing that paper because, I mean, I like horror and I like scary stuff.
Yeah.
You could choose anything.
Oh, cool.
And I was like...
I like that. That would be... I imagine that would be fun and interesting.
It was really... I really enjoyed that. Anyways, sorry.
Cool. So that's what I have, actually. That's a good wrap-up point because that's the end of my rabies case, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yay. How do you end that?
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Do you have closing thoughts?
I learned a lot.
That's good. That's my always.
That's the whole point of this, isn't it? One of my minors was an animal studies minor, so I'm sure we covered rabies at some point.
Sure.
I had the most wild majors and minors. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to be, and then my graduate degree is like fairly related to my undergrad majors, but not.
Yeah. It's adjacent.
It's adjacent. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I just majored in everything. I almost had a second minor, too.
She said, I did all the things.
I literally did most of the things.
Your major was...
Equine facilitated therapeutics, religious studies. Animal studies minor, and I was one class away from a classics minor.
Yeah, you did all the things.
I did. And then I don't mind saying this, my master's degree is in the psychology field. Mm-hmm. So it's adjacent-ish.
Absolutely.
Because that doesn't narrow down my job, because there's lots of things in the psychology field.
Yeah. You will never know what we do, guys.
If you listen hard enough, you'll probably figure out from some of the things I talk about what I do.
Yeah. Possibly for me, too. But neither one of us are ever going to just come out and say it, so don't ask.
You're a serial killer?
Yeah, I'm a serial killer.
Anyways, closing thoughts. Closing thoughts. No, I really like when we go into, like, the history of the things. Mm-hmm. We both like history.
Yes.
Different eras, generally.
Yeah.
But I thought that was very fascinating. Kind of sad.
Yeah.
We've come a long way, and it just...
Thank God.
It does blow my mind that it is, like... It is very, very preventable. Mm-hmm. And that's not, like, I'm trying to think how to say this would not be controversial.
No, you're good.
It's, like, it's something that's very preventable, and I think sometimes people, like, just don't think about how good we have it now, as far as that goes.
Truly.
Right? Because it's, like, so many things, if we were living 100 years ago, like, maybe 100 is not the right amount, but, like, look at, like, diabetes.
Yeah.
Now they know that they can make insulin, and you can live with it.
Right. The progress that is made
Medically, that has come along. There's still a lot that needs to be done medically.
Of course.
Because, there is still a lot that they don't quite know the treatments for, or still underworks. Mm-hmm. Anything neurologic is going to be a little bit tricky, too, because the brain's so complicated.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just kind of, I think it's a nice appreciation of, like, do have ways to prevent and treat this very awful and horrible virus.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It truly is awful and terrible.
I'm done yammering.
Oh, go. Please yammer.
You ready for the questions?
I'm ready.
What drew you to this topic?
Darkly fascinating to me. I've said it before, I love weird medical stuff, and rabies falls very solidly into that category. I also think that particularly in our country, I've said it once, I said it again, it's not taken as seriously as it necessarily should be, because, I mean, like I said before, you said it really well. It's seen as a boogeyman.
Yeah.
And it is awful. So the idea that I could, like, dive into it and, like, sink my teeth in was cool to me.
Is there anything that you wish you could have researched more into?
I'd like to learn more about the Milwaukee Protocol. That's cool.
That sounds, this is off base, the Milwaukee Protocol sounds like some kind of, like, experiment. I mean, it was experimental, but it sounds like some kind of, like, supernatural experimental research.
It sounds like kind of like a horror movie.
It does.
Like a sci-fi related horror movie.
Like a Sci-Fi Channel horror movie.
Yeah. Yes. But it's that, kudos to that doctor, because that's incredible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd love to learn more about that.
And what did you find the most strange about this topic?
Just how far back the history goes. It makes it's such an old disease.
Yeah.
Which is wild. But just how much, I mean, 4,000 years, like, to the what I say earlier, like 1950 to 1850 BCE.
Yeah.
It's written in Sanskrit on these tablets, like, and like the laws surrounding rabid dogs, even if they didn't necessarily know what the disease was, like as we know it now, that's crazy.
It is. And, like, I think kind of similarly to, I said, there's 3 episodes that are going to be very closely related, whether we thought about it or not.
Yes.
Going back to the migraine episode, it is like, I think we forget how far back things go, and we don't give ancient people enough credit for noticing symptoms and putting them together.
Yes, truly.
And I just want to put a reminder in here, lovely friends, that we are doing once a month lives.
Yes.
So the live will happen the week after this episode goes out.
Yes.
It is, unless otherwise specified, the second Friday of the month, and I will try to remember to post reminders about it.
Yeah.
So we'll see you there.
See you there. Please come on and chat with us. We'd love to have you.
We also post them afterwards in case it's, not a good time for you. We understand different people work at different times. I see where you live on Spotify. So we're not all...
I see where you live in real life. No, I'm just kidding.
Do you ever look and you're like, who do I know that lives there?
Yes.
Yeah. Especially in the beginning.
Yeah. When we had, like, random places, we were like, where did that come from?
And we're like, oh, you know what? I know who you are.
Yes. I want to shout out really quick. Some of you might have seen, it just reminds me, but, like, how do we know certain people that we see that are listening?
Yeah.
And, at the World War II event I was just at the beginning of June, one of my friends there, I'm not going to say your name on here because I don't know if I have your permission, mentioned that, oh, I've been listening to you guys and I love you guys. And it was just, like, such a cool moment because it's like, oh my God, people are listening to us. So I just want to say, we genuinely are so tickled pink that you guys come on and listen to us. Like, this is, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, and there are, like, the paranormal, spooky, weird stuff podcast section of the internet. I don't know how...
It's a great area.
But it's saturated like crazy. Like, there's so many different podcasts that are kind of in-ish our...
realm.
Yes. So we appreciate that you're listening to us ramble.
Yeah.
And
it's so cool.
Yes, so we appreciate that. We love seeing when you, like, share stuff. Well, I'm the one who does the social medias.
God bless Brie, because she handles our social media, because I think my head would explode if I tried it. So
it's not bad. I enjoy the interaction. So we always appreciate it when you guys interact with us, and we like interacting with you too.
Yes. So cool. So cool.
All right, so speaking of how to interact with us and where to find us.
Hi-oh.
Just going to slide into that. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a suggestion for a strange or mysterious topic, a comment about an episode, or just want to chat, please do reach out. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, and YouTube. Comment directly on episodes on Spotify, so these are like for each episode. Or leave a review on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts is for the Something Strange as a whole, not individual episodes. Find us on Instagram at something_strange_pod, on Facebook at Something Strange Podcast, and or subscribe to our YouTube channel at something_strange_pod, and you can comment. Oh my goodness! And you can comment on episodes there. You can also send us a Gmail at somethingstrangepod24@gmail.com. The 24 is numeric.
Well, strangers, it's time for us to part ways.
Oh, this is hard. Until we meet again, don't pet animals you don't know.
We'll be back again soon with another
Something Strange.